So we're very happy and privileged to interview Hielke Hijmans of the Belgian Data Protection Authority. He's president of the litigation chamber. Very nice to have you in. Thank you for joining.
Pleasure.
The GDPR has been in effect for the last 2 years. What has been the main focus and the priority of the DPA?
Well, for the Belgian DPA, this has been remarkable times. It has the DPA made a new start in 2018 when it changed from a privacy commission, which had mainly an advisory task, into an authority which also had hard tasks, an authority which has all the spectrum of the task given to it by the GDPR, from advisory and awareness-raising tasks to the hardcore of inspections and decision-making. That was one of the most important starting points for our authority. 2018, the authority changed. 2019, the members of the authority were finally appointed. That's a little bit more than over a year ago. We were all appointed as members of this authority, mainly as a committee directorate of 5 members. That took some time. I will not explain to you why it took so much time, but that has passed. So since a year, we are now working. We try to make this authority, to make it an effective authority, to make an authority which is able to protect the citizen in a digital world. That's how we also now, in our strategic plan, how we identified our purpose is to lead towards a digital world where privacy is a logical element of it. So privacy, data protection as part of our way into a digital world.
Okay. What is your role within the DPA? Can you explain?
Myself, we have a quite particular structure here with 5 members. The DPA has 5 members and a number of external members. Those are part-timers that do specific tasks. The 5 members themselves, the 5 main members, they are member of a comité de direction, directiecomité, or board of executive board, how you call it, which is the highest organ of this authority. And within this comité de direction, all the 5 members have their own specific tasks. Myself, I'm happy to be the president of the litigation chamber, and this litigation chamber is dealing with, as you say, litigation. So basically the enforcement and sanctioning done by the authority. So we deal with cases which are brought to us either because citizens complain or because we got reports from our inspection service, from our authority, on the own initiative of our authority with the request to impose a sanction after an investigation is taking place. Thirdly, we also deal with a lot with cases which are transborder in nature. Within the European Union, a so-called one-stop shop mechanism has been set up with a lead authority. But within this one-stop shop mechanism, it is when it comes to enforcement, my role and the role of my litigation chamber to deal with these cases, which can be cases where people complain at the Belgian DPA because, for instance, they don't like the processing taking place by one of the big internet companies. Or it can also be coming from another DPA when there's an issue in another member state against a company which is based in Belgium. Our final element, I would say, I do this together with a team, with a nice, very good working, very active legal team and a secretariat. But moreover, also this litigation chamber is not only composed by me as its president, a full-time job, but also with 6 part-time external members who do this next to their normal job.
Okay. And what do you see as the main challenges for the DPA?
Our main challenges is to make it all effective, to ensure that we achieve a culture in Belgium where data protection becomes part of the DNA of our society, of our companies, of our public sector. I think that's the main challenge to make that happen through a lot of different instruments we have, like the tools I have in terms of enforcement, but also tools of awareness raising, tools of advising, tools of data protection impact assessments, the whole mechanism, the whole range of tools we have under the GDPR. We try to put that in place in a coordinated and strategic way based on a strategic plan which we adopted in January, and that strategic plan must help us to ensure that it's not only words but it's also acts which make that the citizens in Belgium, the residents of this country, can rely on appropriate data protection.
Okay, thank you. How have companies so far reacted to the interaction with the DPA?
As regards awareness raising, the awareness raising role of the DPA, we have worked closely with the sectorial organizations that represent companies from all sectors of the economy to gather their views as regards the state of play of the GDPR implementation. For instance, we conducted a survey with organizations and received useful feedback from this. So we worked quite closely together with organizations, also with companies separately. We're trying to develop, and I think that's for companies extremely, and also sectoral organizations, extremely important tool, codes of conduct in different areas. So I think that's something we are working on. Next to it, of course, we also impose sanctions on companies, and I think that they might like less now and then. On the other hand, we can also see that it improved the compliance in several cases.
Talking about the enforcement, on April 28th, 2020, DPA imposed penalties for breach of the GDPR. Could you walk us a little through the case?
It's the case against one big Belgian company. One was over the news everywhere, so I will reveal the name here as well. It was against Proximus. It was a case where, which was initiated because of a data breach, which was presumably the fault of Proximus. In the end, we didn't pursue the data breach. We didn't pursue a few other elements of accountability of this company, because we thought in a number of aspects they do a quite good job. But on one aspect we imposed a sanction, and that sanction related to the position of their DPO. To our surprise, or maybe not to our surprise, in any case, that sanction led to a lot of comments, a lot of reactions in Belgium, also abroad. It was really seen as the example of how you deal with DPO independence, and it also received some criticism. What was it about? Let me explain it quite quickly. The DPO, as it is mechanism within the GDPR, is an advisor. It is an important advisor to the highest management. It is an advisory function, but not a decisive, not a function that can decide on data processing. What was the problem with Proximus at the time? Now they changed their structure, but that the DPO was at the same time head of audit and head of internal, and was responsible in that role and a few other roles that he had for data processing operations. This DPO was at the same time responsible for important processing operations and for putting in place policies on these operations. At the same time, he was also DPO, so this person was supposed to advise the highest management on the same operations. And what we said, which I thought was quite logical, but it led to a lot of reactions about how you deal with DPOs. At the same time, this person was advising on processing operations and deciding on it. So basically, he was advising on what he did himself, or not what he did himself, on his own responsibility. And we thought this is a accumulation of activities which is not allowed under GDPR. So that was our main decision, and that decision led to a lot of reactions, because of course you want the DPO to be part of the company, to be part of an organization, to have a central place in the organization. And that was, so people asked themselves, do you want that? Is that your problem? And we said, no, that's not our problem. We don't want an external DPO. We find it important that the DPO is part of an organization, has access to the highest management, but simply said a DPO cannot advise on what he has decided himself, or something for which he is responsible himself.
Okay, clear. And what do you identify as the main learning points for the DPOs based on this case?
I think DPOs should really look at their role. They should look at their role in the sense that they should look at their responsibilities and advisory responsibilities. It should also be important, but it's a bit outside of this case, that they can play their role as confidential for the management as well as for individuals within the company. They are also the link with individuals whose data are being processed by a company. At the same time, there, of course, also they have the link with the Data Protection Authority, which we think is privileged, should be privileged. On the other hand, the DPOs are part of an organization, should be part of the organization, so they in no way should be the long arm of the authority itself.
Okay. That's clear. How do you see the future develop for the GDPR and the implementation and enforcement?
Well, that's a very big question. The European Commission just adopted a communication on 2 years GDPR, where it mainly focused on enforcement and that it should be stricter, stronger, etc., and that we are still too weak as enforcers. I think that there is a sort of a problem there. The problem is also, I think, a lot with trans-border operations, where the cooperation between the authorities is quite cumbersome under the GDPR, and it takes time, and there's different views on how to deal with it. I also think that we should really take enforcement serious, but at the same time, I think enforcement is not the only role of a DPA. The DPA should also be clearly part of the decision-making discussions on data protection. The DPA should be open to discussion with society. So I think it's not only enforcement, but it's different roles together. Of course, in my specific position within DPA, I'm dealing mainly with enforcement, but I also think that it's important that our authority and that other authorities are open for discussion and are not just waiting for their input being given. So an open role, I think, is important, with the view to ensure that data protection becomes part of our culture.
Clear. Well, thank you very much for your time and insight into the enforcement side with the DPA. Hielke Hijmans, I hope to meet you again soon, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.